But there's another piece in there that I think is important, that I hear people say all the time when they see somebody who, let's say, came upon an opportunity and it looks like it just landed in their lap, right? And yet we know that that person had an open and curious mindset, or they are what they call a lifelong learner, or they're just one of those people who's always curious. And yet they're also one of those people who always seems to be successful at whatever they do. And it's so easy to not look at all the spaces in between where things didn't go well or something was disappointing. And people say, oh, they were just lucky. They were just lucky. And I always, especially lately, I'll say, there's no such thing. They weren't just lucky. They invited it in. Something showed up and they allowed themselves to see it. Because I've also seen people who have similar good fortune that crosses their path, and it could be right here in front of them, and they don't even see it because their mindset isn't lined up in the same way, or they're not as curious. They just haven't had that mindset there. What do you think about that, Harsha?
No, I totally agree, Tammy. And one thing that has really driven this journey is this whole idea of luck, or recognizing those fortuitous moments. And I love the work of Christian Bush, who's one of my very early guests. And he talks about this in his book, The Serendipity Mindset. And it's about strategies for almost trying to create luck. And it's really about being aware of all your interactions and thinking, okay, can this potentially be, and not doing this in a transactional way, but thinking, okay, looking at the story, can I help that person? Can we do something together? And the really funny thing about Christian is that, so I didn't know Christian until literally 2 years ago. And I was watching YouTube during lockdown, and a video came up with Christian talking about his book. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting. It really aligns with the way I've lived my life to some extent. And I thought, oh yeah, it's lockdown. I'm sure Christian doesn't have anything better to do. So I hit him up on LinkedIn, and he actually replied, which was really nice of him. And then I managed to get him on a webinar that I was doing, and then that went quite well. And then he appeared to be on my podcast. And the really nice thing about Christian was I had him down as episode ` 1. So he was going to be the launch guest, because you know how it is. It's nice to have a well-known launch guest. But then the neuroscientist Dr. Gabby Tolakita, she had a book out at the same time. And she actually contacted me. I'd been trying to get hold of her. And she said, oh, can I appear on your podcast? And Christian was very nice. He stepped aside, and he went to episode #2, and Gabby was #1. So it's amazing. I think if you're a good person, good things happen, and his book is done phenomenally well. And you don't have to be sharp-elbowed to get ahead in life. His book had been out for a little while, so it was very nice of him. Other people may not have been so nice, but he was very gracious and stepped aside. But I think the other interesting point about luck is that it's very much a numbers game, because for every Christian Bush, there are 10 people who, and you know how it is. You contact people to appear on your podcast, you do the research, you think you almost have them as a guest, and then for whatever reason, it goes away. So I think people actually have to look at the reality of the situation, because they maybe see your 100+ episodes, or the success that I've had, and they think, oh yeah, it's lucky. But there's a lot of grind behind it, a lot of disappointment. And one of my other guests, Emily West, was talking to me about this, saying that people look at, say, Jeff Bezos, or people who've done incredibly well in their lives, and think, I'd like to be like that. And obviously he's had some luck, but the work that he's put in, you just don't know. You don't know about the disappointments that he's faced. And I remember one time, pre-pandemic, when, say, the internet bubble was happening in the crisis, people were looking at him and thinking, Amazon is just not going to survive. And now it's this huge, massive company. So you can't just look at the story in one point in time. You have to look at the whole arc. Don't you think so?